Welcome, my name is Isabella Brusati and I am the founder of Isabella Brusati Consulting. We specialize in change management, therefore from the mergers and acquisition to restructuring, and also we deal with other issues relating to cultural change management, with appraisal and performance management. In this video specifically, I will start a series that will focus on the main elements of performance management. Therefore, what is performance management, how to avoid the most common pitfalls, and how to create an organization that is performing to its best, and most of all that is composed by individuals who are best performers. So first of all, let's start with what is performance management? Well, actually, performance management is fundamentally a process, and this process is aimed at measuring and improving the effectiveness of people in the workplace. People are the main assets of every organization. Therefore, having a performance management process that is capable of taking the best and making the best out of your main asset is fundamentally important. Funnily enough, not many companies actually know how to optimize performance management. Sometimes there is a little bit of a misunderstanding of the difference between performance management and performance appraisal. Actually, the two are not the same, as performance appraisal is more like a formal assessment and rating of the employees. So the performance appraisal is part of the performance management, but is not the same thing. Why does performance management really matters? Well, fundamentally, because the company effectiveness is based on the individual's effectiveness. If the individuals, for example, are underperforming, are burned out, the company is not making the best of their potential, well, actually, it's very unlikely, not to say impossible, that your company is going to reach the best of its performance. Also, it matters because of the results for shareholders. Of course, if the company is performing to its best, the value of the company on the market will be higher, and therefore also the value of the investment of shareholders into the company. It's also very important for managers because, of course, if the employees within their team and within their company are performing to their best, of course they will achieve better results. But it's also important for the employees, for the individuals, because if someone is fully committed to the goals and the values of the company and they are performing to their very best, well, of course they will be more committed because they will be also optimizing their skills and their knowledge. So performance management is not just a gimmick, it is something extremely important because it's aimed to align the goals of the individuals and therefore the employees to the goals of the company. If the two are misaligned, well, of course, the individuals are not going to work towards maximizing the performance of the company, but that will be like, the typical, oh, well, who cares, I just do the bare minimum because I just receive my salary anyway. And it's actually not the right way to go. I actually remember working for a client who unfortunately had the bad habit of paying bonuses also to poor performance. Well, it was not a mystery. Well, actually, I did an assessment to realize the reason why the employees were not good performers, because, of course, whether they did perform to their best or not, they knew that they were getting their piece of the cake. So when the performance management system changed, well, a lot of people basically had to change their habit significantly. It's very important to develop individuals. There are a lot of managers that make a mistake of considering individuals like a sort of a machine, I pay you, you do the job and shut up. Well, actually that's not the best way of managing people in an optimal way. You need actually to realize what makes them tick, what are their motivators, giving people responsibilities and also making them being more committed. There are some mistakes that a lot of companies actually make when dealing with performance management. First of all, they do not create performance metrics. There are some roles that are much more prone to be measured. So for example, I don't know, if it is a customer service, it could be number of calls made in one day. So you have to reach a target which is, for example, 50 calls a day. But sometimes there are some activities that are not very easy to measure. So let's take the example of an investment banker. Well, you know, it takes quite some time to build a relationship with the clients. So some managers and some companies tend to fall down when certain results cannot be easily measured. In reality, for example, skills that are more like soft skills, like customer relationships, can be easily measured as well. For example, a number of complaints that the company has received. If the complaints are going down, it's clear that the customer service is much better, is more effective. Also, sometimes, actually far too often, there is this misalignment between the goals that the individuals have to reach and the reward structure. It's not unusual, for example, for a company to change the goals, for example, to make them more challenging, and to keep the reward structure exactly the same. So, for example, if I have to work double, but I know that I will get exactly the same amount of money in terms of, for example, of bonuses, what's my motivation in doing that? So this is something to review. Every time that you're setting goals, you have to make sure that your reward structure is in line with those goals. And also, it's important that goals are achievable, but also they have to be challenging. I actually was dealing again with another client, and I was helping them with their performance and appraisal system. And it was not unusual for employees to say, oh, you know what, when I actually set my own goals, I usually tend to do something that, I've already achieved. So I set something that I know that, for example, I've partly achieved, so I'm sure that I will get my bonus. Well, again, that's not the point of a performance management. This is the wrong mentality, and that's not how to get the best out of your employees. So, of course, there are some methods to understand the reason why certain employees are acting in a certain way, but the company has to be aware of the potential pitfalls that actually are stated in here and how to avoid them. Remember, if your employees are not performing to their best, your company cannot be a winner, for the simple reason that too many people drag their feet. You will not reach the full potential, not only of the individuals, but also of the company. So what can you do? And this is, of course, a very high level, so it's very important for employees to set goals. So you have to tell your employees what they have to achieve, and you have to put them in writing, because verba volant scripta manent means that, if you just say something, people tend to be forgetful. So put them in writing and set a timeline. Make it very, very clear when the employees will have to reach their targets. Of course, you will have to set up also the activities that are required to achieve certain goals. Again, this is not a mechanical process. You have to engage into a negotiation and into a dialogue with the employees. It's also important to take into consideration whether the employee, in order to reach that goal, has to be coached, trained, or mentored. Far too often, again, people say, oh yeah, whatever, you just do it. Well, if you want the employee to be committed and to stretch their capabilities, it's important to support them. So whether it's coaching, whether it's mentoring, whether it's formal training, or sometimes it can be also informal, you have, as a manager and as a company, to discuss this element with your employees. Also, as I said, you got to set a timeline, and you have to check periodically with the employee whether he or she is achieving the goals. It's very rare, that the trajectory is like this, so you have to take into consideration all the various, problems that may arise. In some cases, to be honest, it could also be that the goal is reached before it was expected. So you have to check with the employee how it is progressing. We said that basically it's very important, in order for performance management to work, to align the goals of the organization to the goals of the individuals. So goals is an element that is fundamental. How do you set goals? Well, this is an acronym which is very, very popular, and it's called SMART goals. What does that mean? It means that the goals, first of all, have to be specific. They have to be measurable. So as I said before, you have to set metrics, whether it is a soft skill or whether it is a hard skill. They have to be achievable. There is no point in setting a goal that is not challenging enough, but there is no point also in setting a goal that is impossible to achieve. What's the point? So they have to be challenging, but of course they have to be reasonable. They also have to be relevant. There is no point, for example, to set a goal of, I don't know, achieving clients or getting clients in the telecommunication sector if actually that's not the strategy of the company. So again, you have to make the goals, to align the goals of the individuals to the goals of the organization. And also they have to be time framed. So when are these goals going to be achieved? And as I said before, you have to check regularly with the employee if he or she is on track. And very, very important, as I said before, avoid the pitfall. You actually have to align the goals to the reward framework. So what are the characteristics of the performance management? As we said, the goals of the individual have to be aligned to the goals of the organization. Performance management is not just a process that ends. It's an ongoing process. The goals of the organization and the strategy of the organization changes on an ongoing basis. And you have to make sure that the individuals are always aligned to the goals that your organization wants to reach. Also, it has to promote a dialogue between the managers and the individual about the individual's personal development and their performance. Far too often managers are promoted because of their technical skills. So for example, they are very good at bringing in clients. But far too often managers are not good at all at dealing with people, talking to people, and most of all, basically coaching and managing them properly. What I often suggest, taking of course into consideration the situation of the client, is to link the performance management process to the managerial skills. So if someone is promoting into a managerial position, their ability to manage their people and therefore to create great performance must be part of their goals and the objectives of the organization. Someone can be a fantastic manager in terms of technical skills, so bringing in a business, but if they are a dreadful manager in terms of people skills, you will very likely lose the best talents. Remember, the best people leave first because they know that they do have a market, but most of all, the cost of the turnover and loss of skills and knowledge for your company will be significant. If you want to optimize performance management within your organization, you can actually talk to me, and I can actually organize a brief meeting, and we can go through the problems or issues that your company may experience now, and basically together finding solutions that are going to make your company the best in the market. Thank you so much for watching.